going to your pastor or going to someone for counsel and just talking that through, because you can have a lot of feelings inside yourself of inadequacy, and maybe you'll just give up. Maybe marriage isn't for me. There we go. And maybe the light will come on, as and you'll maybe you have some problems that need correction, and maybe you're not communicating well, and maybe some good counsel can help, or maybe in God's providence you just haven't met the right person yet. So I wouldn't say give up, but I would say maybe get some counsel and think about it, think it through with somebody who's very mature, but don't run away and hide.
We don't want to underestimate the devil is seeking those whom he.
Is that in the dream?
This is my dream.
Oh, okay. Just want to be clear. Yeah.
He doesn't remember it. Wait, I'm sorry. I didn't. You said you what disconnected life? I. It's really helpful when men come to you when they need you. That's really, really helpful. You know, we're not fortune tellers. We don't know what everybody's needs are. So I think it's a two-way street. Shepherds need to be available. People need to pursue the shepherds, and the shepherds need to pursue the sheep. I think it's a multifaceted response.
Yes, teaching and ruling elders, we could do better from our side, no doubt, on occasions, social occasions, occasions like after church, in the church parking lot, things like that. Paul Washer was with us last weekend in Grand Rapids, actually, and I was really very impressed with how much time he took after he talked. I'm talking like an hour and a half, just talking with people, getting close to them. Talking about spiritual things, having substantive conversations, that can always be improved. But like Scott just said, it needs to work the other way around as well. And I think when people who aren't office bearers come to office bearers with questions, I think almost all of my elders would be very responsive and would talk and give whatever wisdom they knew or dialogue, and you could get closer to them. But one thing I want to mention that come to my mind right away when you asked that question, one of the best things our church does, it's an old Dutch tradition, but other traditions had it for a while, but we've lost it for the most part, is that 2 elders would come to your home once a year for what they call soul visitation, or sometimes called family visitation. All your children are present, and you speak about spiritual things, and they ask you practical questions. How's family worship going? Any questions you have about the church. And when they come in the right spirit, not looking down on you, but coming as a needy brother to a needy brother and to your family, and talk to every one of your children about spiritual things. And it's in our tradition, they do 2 visits in a night, so they're about an hour and a quarter visits each. That annual visit, the people really get more and more bonded to the elders through it. It used to be in my tradition, they were scared stiff when the elders would come because they thought they'd ask probing questions in a wrong way, and sometimes they did. But when family visitation historically is done rightly, it bonds the elders with the people way, way beyond anything else I know, because the whole purpose of the visit is to speak about real things. You know, having soup suppers and other social occasions can do a little bit of good, and you can chat, and sometimes people open up to you. But the structure of family visitation is such that you get to real conversation right away, and it really helps bond them.
I think that we really need to work on what I would call the lost art of pastoring. I'm very, very fortunate. I'm under elders. I'm not an elder. I'm under elders who care for the people's souls in the church. The door is always wide open for people to come to our elders, to counsel with our elders over extensive periods of time. They visit homes. And what we have to realize is that there is judgment on America, but judgment always begins with the household of God. And so many in evangelicalism, pastors are administrators, they're movers and shakers, or they're just great expositors. Pastors are pastors. And it's not less than expository preaching, but it is far more than expository preaching. I believe that many churches have lost that. But now another thing I think that is very, very important is that we have not only pastors, but mature believers in the church that I can go to. Then one of the reasons for being married, whether you're a man or a woman, is that many of the things I think as a single man that I would take to elders, I can now say I honestly discuss them with my wife. And so there's these different areas in the church where I can receive ministry, and that needs to be regained. I've had so many people come to me and go, "What do you mean you're not an elder in your church?" I said, "I'm not. I work missions full time." Yeah, but you could be a teaching elder. And I go, "I don't believe in that." Now, I believe that there are elders who teach and some who, I believe that, and some who lead in things. But if you're going to be an elder, your great concern is for that body, not for someone 10,000 miles away. And I think that's been lost. I tell missionaries, young missionaries will come to me, and I say, first thing I ask them, "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to plant a church." "Why?" And they'll say, "Well, I'm going to plant a church because through that church I want to plant other churches." And immediately say, "You're wrong. Stop. Don't go to the field." And they say, "Why?" I said, "You never plant a church to use a church for your vision. You plant a church because you love the people and you want to feed them, not because you want from them to do other things. But if you do feed them and care for them, you will do other things." But always, if you're a pastor out here today, know this, that a pastor is a preacher, but he's more than a preacher. He's a pastor. He's a shepherd. And I can say that I'm very fortunate that I am under shepherds.
There are a lot of people out there that have preachers but not shepherds. They're all over the place. And it's part of what you're talking about. There's just a tremendous need to reform what pastoral care is.
One thing, too, is whenever you have a contact with somebody, my dad taught me this, too. He said, always try to say something. Always try to say something that can be of abiding value. Try to have some kind of conversation that can connect. Even if it's a boy or girl, 6 years old, you meet in church. Just don't say hello, but get down on your knees beside him and say, I've got a sermon I'm going to preach today about a story, and I want you to talk with your mom and dad about it afterward, okay? And they won't forget that. Or seek the Lord and hate sin and love Christ. Just say that to a young child. You always try to say something meaningful, and you never know how a word will stick. And that creates bonds as well. People call me often as a president of a seminary. It's a regular call I get from people, and they say, "Oh, we're without a pastor. What kind of pastor should we look for?" One of my surprising answers is kind of like a Paul Washer answer, surprise. And I say to them, well, look, first of all, invite the pastor to come and preach for your church, and then watch how he treats the children when they walk through the door. Does he just shake the hands of the parents and ignore the children? Or does he stoop down and say, "Hello, what's your name? How old are you?" Does he get interested? Does he love people? If you have a shepherd, he has to love people. I say to my theological students, if you don't love people, you might as well just stand up and walk out of this building. You're not called to be a minister of the gospel. You got to love their souls. So anyway, that's just a few extra thoughts.
Good deal. Well, I know there are a lot more questions. The hands are flying out there, and guess what? It's over. We're going to need to go upstairs, and we'll go into the main room that we were in a few minutes ago, and we'll open the time, and then you'll go out in the hall and get your food, and then come back in, and then we'll begin the burnings in the soul session. So, hey, thanks for the questions. You know, you did it. That was great. You were not men at all. You were, you know.
Real men ask questions.
Real men ask questions. There you go. All right. We're dismissed.
Quick question.
Yeah.
For someone that's a new convert, what would be a good study Bible to get? I listened to Brother Walsh's sermon one time,